I grew the world's 7 most expensive spices at home, and tonight I am going to show you exactly how each one is done, counting them up from the cheapest to the dearest, finishing with the one that has been worth more than its weight in gold for 3,500 years, and which, astonishingly, is the easiest of the lot to grow in an ordinary garden bed. That is the great joke of this whole subject. The expensive spices are not expensive because the plants are difficult to keep alive. They are expensive because of what has to happen after the plant has done its part. And almost all of that is human hands, human patience, and a job so fiddly that no machine has ever managed it. My name is Malcolm Ashby, and I have been growing things for 50 years. This particular obsession started with a jar of saffron in a shop and the price on the label, which I refused to believe, and it ended with a bed of crocuses and a pair of tweezers at 6 in the morning. Along the way I have grown or attempted every spice on tonight's list, made a fair number of mistakes, and learnt that the real skill in this corner of gardening is not cultivation at all. It is the harvest and the cure. Let me say one thing, and then I will not bring it up again. Every plant I know, its look-alike, and what it is worth in dollars, I have put into one book. On page 31 there is a weed that grows in most backyards, that people spray on site, and that replaces the $5 tea they have been buying for years. It is at thebackyardgoldmine.com, and the link is under this video. If you want it, it is there. That is all. Number 7. Long pepper, at around $30 a pound. And we begin with the spice history forgot. Before black pepper conquered the world, long pepper was the pepper, prized in Rome, worth more than its familiar cousin for centuries. And then it simply fell out of European fashion and vanished from our kitchens, while remaining essential in Indian and Indonesian cooking. It looks nothing like a peppercorn. It is a small catkin, like a tiny brown cone or a stubby caterpillar. And it tastes like pepper that has been to a party, hot but sweeter, with something almost of ginger and cinnamon behind it. It grows as a climbing vine on a trellis, and it needs warmth, so a conservatory or greenhouse for most of us, or outdoors in the warmest climates. You harvest the spikes when they turn from green to dark and dry them whole. It earns its place at number 7 because it is the easiest way to have a spice in your kitchen that almost nobody you know has ever tasted, and because being unfashionable for 300 years has kept the price honest. Number 6. Grains of paradise, around $40 a pound. Another spice with a marvelous name and a similar history. It is West African, a relative of ginger and cardamom, and its seeds carry a peppery heat with citrus and a resinous, almost eucalyptus edge. It was enormously popular in medieval Europe and then dropped out of use, and now it is having a quiet revival among brewers and gin distillers, which is a market worth knowing about. The plant is a reed-like perennial that wants warmth, humidity and dappled shade, the same conditions as its cardamom cousin, so again a heated greenhouse or a conservatory. It flowers at ground level, produces a pod, and inside are the little russet seeds. Dry them, keep them whole, and grind fresh, because everything on tonight's list loses its soul within weeks of being ground. Number 5. Mahlab, around $50 a pound, and this one is a genuine curiosity because you may already own the tree. Mahlab is the kernel inside the stone of the St. Lucie cherry, a small ornamental cherry grown across Europe and North America, and it is the flavour that makes Middle Eastern and Greek Easter breads taste the way they do, a haunting sort of bitter almond and cherry. Here is the process, and it is why it costs what it does. You harvest the small sour cherries, remove the flesh, crack every stone individually, and take out the soft kernel inside, which is roughly the size of a grain of rice. Then you dry them. It takes a very great many cherries, and a very long evening with a small hammer to produce a jar of it, and that is the entire explanation for the price. The tree itself is hardy, pretty in blossom, and asks nothing of you. Number 4. Cardamom, $60 a pound, and now we are in the ranks of the spices everybody has heard of. True green cardamom, the queen of spices, is a shade-loving relative of ginger from the hill forests of southern India, and it is grown in the West only under glass, wanting warmth, humidity, and deep shade because full sun scorches it. The first thing to accept is the wait, 2 to 3 years before it flowers, and the flowers come out at ground level along creeping stems, not up in the foliage, so you have to know to look down. Each pollinated flower makes a pale green pod. And here is the harvest problem that sets the price. The pods on a single stem ripen at different times, so a picker must go over the same plants again and again through the season, taking a few pods each pass by hand, and picking too early or too late ruins them. Dry them slowly in shade to hold the green color, because green pods sell and brown pods do not, and keep them whole and sealed, since a cardamom pod opened loses its perfume within days. Grow it once and you will never accept the grey dust in a supermarket jar again. Now, a quick word before we go on to the top 3. Most of the people watching this channel are not subscribed. If you enjoy finding out what old and ordinary things are really worth, press subscribe. It costs you nothing and you can always change your mind later. Right then. The 3 most expensive spices on earth. Number 3. Wasabi, around $160 a pound. And I want to start with the fact that reframes everything. Almost every scrap of wasabi you have eaten in your life, in restaurants included, was dyed horseradish and mustard powder. Real wasabi is a different plant with a different flavor altogether. Green and complex and even faintly sweet, with a heat that goes up through the nose and vanishes in a moment, rather than sitting and burning. It is called the most difficult commercial crop in the world, and the reputation is deserved. It wants deep shade, cool air, and above all constantly moving fresh water, because in nature it grows in the gravel of mountain stream beds, where cold water runs over its roots day and night. Stagnant water kills it, heat kills it, direct sun kills it, and it takes 2 years to build a rhizome worth harvesting. If you want to attempt it, and it can be done, you want a shaded, cool, damp site, ideally with running water, or a bog bed you tend attentively, and a great deal of patience. And when you finally harvest one, understand the last detail, which is why nobody sells it fresh at scale. Grated wasabi begins losing its flavor within about 15 minutes. It must be grated at the table, on a traditional sharkskin grater, and eaten almost immediately. A spice that cannot be stored, cannot be shipped, and cannot wait is a spice that will always be rare. Number 2. Vanilla, $300 a pound, and frequently a great deal more. And the reason why is the best story in the whole of horticulture. Vanilla is an orchid, a climbing vine from Mexico, and it will grow perfectly well in a warm, bright conservatory or heated greenhouse anywhere in the world, given something to climb and a humid atmosphere. That was never the difficulty. The difficulty was that for 300 years, after the Spanish took it from Mexico, the vine grew happily all over the tropical world and refused, absolutely refused, to produce a single pod, because the only creature capable of pollinating the flower lived in Mexico and nowhere else. Plantations across the empires grew beautiful, useless vines. The problem was solved in 1841 on the island of Réunion by a 12-year-old enslaved boy named Edmund Albius, who worked out that you could lift the small flap that separates the male and female parts inside the flower with a sliver of bamboo and press them together with your thumb. Every vanilla pod on earth is still produced by that method, by hand, 1 flower at a time, and the flowers open for a single morning, so somebody must walk the vines every day through the flowering season and pollinate each one within hours, or lose it. Then the pods take 9 months to mature. Then, and this is the part nobody expects, the harvested green pods have no flavor or scent at all, and must be cured, killed in hot water, then sweated and dried in a cycle of sun and wrapping repeated over weeks and sometimes months until they turn dark and wrinkled and develop the aroma. 3 years to first flowering, a hand pollination on a single morning, 9 months of waiting and a month of curing for 1 pod. That is what you are paying for. Number 1. Saffron, at $2,500 to $5,000 a pound, the most expensive spice in the world by a wide margin, worth more than silver. And here is the twist this whole video has been building toward. It is the easiest thing on tonight's list to grow. Not the cheapest to buy, the easiest to grow. Saffron comes from Crocus sativus, an autumn flowering crocus that you plant as a small corm, 4 inches deep, in late summer, in ground that drains well, with a little water and very little care. It is hardy across a great swathe of the temperate world. It has been grown in England, Spain, Iran, Kashmir and Pennsylvania, and it has been cultivated for something like 3,500 years, most likely originating in Persia. In October, each corm sends up a lilac flower, and inside each flower are 3 crimson threads, the stigmas, carrying the compound crossin, which is what gives saffron its extraordinary golden colour. 3 threads per flower, that is the whole of the price explained. It takes somewhere in the region of 150 to 200,000 flowers to make a single pound of dried saffron, and every one of those flowers is picked by hand at dawn before the sun opens them fully, and every set of 3 threads is pulled out with fingers or tweezers, 1 flower at a time, and then dried gently the same day. When I harvested my own first flower and stood there holding 3 red threads, having done the arithmetic on how many more I would need for a pound, I laughed out loud, and I have never once begrudged the price on a jar since. But do not let the arithmetic put you off, because the home grower's position is entirely different from the commercial one. You are not trying to make a pound. A gram of good saffron, which is the little jar people pay $8 or $10 for, is roughly 150 flowers, and that is a bed the size of a doormat. The corms multiply underground every year, so the bed you plant this autumn is larger next autumn without you spending another penny. And the finished thing is incomparably better than what you can buy, because a great deal of commercial saffron is adulterated, padded out with safflower or dyed threads, and yours is not. Plant it once, harvest every October at dawn for 10 years, and grow the world's most expensive spice beside your back door. So look at the 7 together and notice what they have in common, because it is the real lesson of tonight. Long pepper and grains of paradise are dear because fashion forgot them. Mahlab is dear because somebody must crack every stone. Cardamom is dear because the pods ripen at different times and a person must go over the plants again and again. Wasabi is dear because it will not wait 15 minutes. Vanilla is dear because a human hand must marry every single flower on the one morning it opens. And saffron, the dearest of all, is dear because of 3 red threads. Not one of those is a growing problem. Every one of them is a labour problem. And when the labour is yours, done in your own garden, on a morning you are going to spend out there anyway, the price collapses to nothing, and what you are left with is a jar of something better than money can readily buy. Whatever you do, don't assume the expensive spices are beyond you. Start with the crocuses this autumn. If tonight gave you a project, press like before you go. It truly tells me to keep making these, and subscribe if you have not, because next time we are going in the opposite direction entirely. 15 crops you can grow for absolutely nothing from the scraps already in your kitchen, including one that turns a single grocery bulb into a year's supply. Then tell me down in the comments, which of these 7 would you actually attempt, and has anyone out there grown saffron? I read every single one. Go and have a proper look in that garden. You never know. See you next time.